Hollywood's wildest reinventions came from women who refused to whisper. Mae West rattled censors with a wink, while Hedy Lamarr stunned the world twice, first on screen, then with ideas that helped inspire modern wireless tech. Which rule-bending performances truly changed movies, and which just looked daring? Let's test the myths. Ready? Mae West, the one-woman earthquake. Mae West didn't break into Hollywood. She took the front door off its hinges and used it as a stage. In the early 1930 seconds, when studios were jittery and censors were sharpening pencils, West arrived with two secret weapons: timing and wit. She Done Him Wrong and I'm No Angel didn't just pack theaters, they kept entire lots solvent during rough economic weather. Her characters didn't apologize, didn't beg, and definitely didn't wait for permission. They spoke in diamond-edged one-liners that critics called volcanic and preachers called dangerous. That friction made her box office gold. Directors loved that she wrote or shaped her own material. Her rule was simple: every scene needs a laugh, a wink, or a power move, preferably all three. Trade papers scolded the tone, then printed her lines anyway because readers devoured them. The public felt it too. West's confidence was liberating, and audiences showed up to feel brave for 90 minutes. Studio bosses learned a crucial lesson: attitude is marketable. Financially, her films punched far above their budgets, giving Paramount the kind of lifeline accountants toast in private. Culturally, West shifted the leading lady blueprint from delicate to decisive. You can trace her fingerprints across decades of comedy, where the joke isn't at the woman's expense, it's at anyone's expense who underestimates her. The secret sauce? She made clarity glamorous. When she sauntered into a frame, you knew exactly who had leverage and who didn't. That certainty sparked backlash. Sure, but it also minted a new category of star, the author of her own myth. In a town famous for saying no, Mae West sold yes, bold, unapologetic, and wildly profitable. Jean Harlow Platinum Shock Therapy. Jean Harlow didn't enter, she detonated. From red-headed woman to red dust, Harlow fused mischief with precision, letting a single eyebrow arch do the heavy lifting. The platinum persona wasn't just a look, it was a living billboard for modern bravado. Critics split, some called it too brash, yet audiences lined sidewalks like parade routes. Studios took notes. Scandal-adjacent sells when the star can deliver punchlines with boxer timing. Harlow's dialogue snapped like a telegram, and her walk had the rhythm of a drumline. What really set her apart was control. She could steamroll a room and then soften on a dime, turning swagger into warmth without losing momentum. Trade writers wrung hands about decency, but every column inch multiplied demand. Financials? Oxygen for the bottom line. MGM and its rivals learned that charisma, properly amplified, outguns any sermon. Culturally, Harlow redefined the leading lady as a comic athlete: quick feet, quicker wit, and the agility to turn a scandal into a standing ovation. Directors adored how she hit marks and jokes with sniper accuracy, keeping edits lean and costs tidy. She also set a pace others chased. Lighting, makeup, and wardrobe were engineered to catch one specific thrill: the sparkle that made even throwaway scenes feel like events. The wild detail that keeps her legend alive is how modern she still plays. Watch any contemporary star who uses humor as a shield and a blade. There's a Harlow gene in that DNA. The platinum hair may be a museum piece, but the engine underneath confidence plus comedy still powers hits. She didn't ask the era to like her. She made it laugh, then pay. Barbara Stanwyck, the Velvet Sledgehammer. Barbara Stanwyck was proof that precision beats volume. Babyface became a ballet, pre-code thunderclap, not only for its audacity but for Stanwyck's unflinching clarity. She didn't posture, she plotted. Every glance suggested a cost-benefit analysis happening behind her eyes. Critics, rattled and thrilled, called the performance disarmingly modern. Audiences felt the electric charge of someone navigating a tilted world with brains and backbone. The aftermath mattered. The film's shockwaves helped harden enforcement, which is another way of saying one actress forced the rulebook into emergency mode. Directors championed her professionalism first on set, last to complain, always let her perfect. On the ledger, her name meant reliable margins, especially in a marketplace hungry for stories with bite. Here's the killer detail. Stanwyck made ambition feel ethical by showing the forces aligned against you. You didn't watch a villain winning, you watched a survivor strategizing. That nuance turned cynics into fans. It also shaped noir and melodrama for years, with writers suddenly convinced that tough minds could be box office poetry. She proved that a leading woman could be complex without being punished by the script. Lines from Babyface entered the culture as coded permission slips. Be prepared, be decisive, be unapologetic about what you've earned. The performance still feels fresh because the engine is timeless. Competence under pressure. You can dress that in any decade's fashion, and it plays. Stanwyck's gift was turning the camera into a confidant. You felt you were in on the plan. And when the plan worked, the victory felt shared. That's not just acting, that's architecture. Marlene Dietrich tuxedos, torchlight, shockwaves. Marlene Dietrich didn't so much test limits as redesign them with a tailor's chalk. In Morocco and Shanghai Express, she used silhouette as argument, turning a tuxedo, a top hat, and a measured half-smile into cultural lightning. The partnership with Josef von Sternberg layered gauze, shadow, and jewel box lighting until every frame looked devotional. Audiences gasped, critics scrambled for new vocabulary. The boldness wasn't loud, it was impeccably composed. That's why it landed with force. Dietrich's cool was a manifesto. Identity can be styled, and style can be truth. Box office rose to meet the conversation, forcing studios to confront a profitable paradox: controversy attached to elegance becomes chic. Directors praised her discipline and her genius for stillness. She knew when to hold a shot like a sustained note, so the audience could absorb the image and its implications. A wild detail. Tales from sets say she tweaked lights and veils to sculpt her own myth in real time. A hands-on auteur of presence. The impact went far beyond costumes. She granted viewers permission to imagine themselves outside the default. That invitation, delivered without a shout, echoes through pop stars, fashion houses, and prestige cinema alike. Financially, Dietrich made refinement bankable. Historically, she carved a path where composure could be radical. Watch the closing moments of Shanghai Express, how she turns a glance into a fireworks finale. It's the definition of cinematic economy. Minimal motion, maximum meaning. That's not mere glamour, that's command. Clara Bow, the engine that roared. Clara Bow wasn't a flapper. She was the weather system that flappers lived in. It and wings crackle because Bow radiates motion, eyes, hands, shoulders, all tuned to a jazz tempo. She looks straight into the lens like a challenge. Keep up. The public did, flooding theaters and making her the avatar of modern fun. Gossip merchants tried long campaigns to sand her down. It only sold more tickets. Critics initially sniffed, then surrendered to the authenticity. Bow's secret is the way she made spontaneity read as truth instead of chaos. Directors loved her instincts. Crews loved that she'd risk a take to chase lightning. Financially, she was pure fuel during a fragile decade, reversing ledgers and subsidizing riskier pictures. The wild detail fans cling to is how uncoached she felt, no aristocratic polish, just real person energy delivered at strobe speed. That honesty made even breezy scenes feel consequential. She'd grab a prop, toss a look, and suddenly you were learning about a generation in one gesture. Cultural impact? Immense. Advertisers copied her expressions. Magazines copied her posture. Half a continent copied her haircut. And yet, underneath the sparkle, Bow telegraphed vulnerability. You rooted for her because she looked like someone you knew, fighting for air in a crowded room. That mixed spark plus soul keeps her timeless. When today's stars try to bottle relatable, they're chasing Bow. She taught the industry that fun isn't lightweight when it's grounded in truth. It's a tidal force. Greta Garbo. The quiet quake. Greta Garbo turns suggestion into a superpower. In Queen Christina and Camille, she played closeness like a violin, letting silence do the speaking. That restraint baffled moral watchdogs who equated intensity with noise. Critics, meanwhile, bowed to the control, an eyelash tilt with the weight of a monologue. Audiences sensed they were experiencing something rare intimacy without overshare. Box office followed because the performances felt private and gigantic at once. Studios loved the predictability of prestige returns. Directors loved that she could hold a frame so still, the world around it seemed to move. The mystique off-screen was a business asset. Fewer interviews meant higher demand for the work itself. A wild detail fans cherish, she could shift temperature inside a single take, moving from cool to molten with only the breath between lines. Her legacy rewired the camera's job. Instead of chasing gestures, it learned to wait for them. That patience changed how close-ups work, setting the grammar for modern screen acting. Garbo didn't demand attention. She calibrated it. The cultural echo is everywhere. Performers who understand that a whisper, correctly placed, can set off a thunderclap. In the end, Garbo proved that power lies not only in what you show, but in what you withhold. That paradox keeps her films evergreen. You lean in, and somehow she's still a step ahead. Rita Hayworth glamour as grenade. Rita Hayworth taught the world that a glove could cause gridlock. Gilda wasn't just a thriller, it was a national temperature check. Hayworth married musical timing to noir ache, turning a nightclub tease into a referendum on longing and control. Critics wrote in 2 columns, rapture and worry, then agreed on one point: unforgettable. Box office soared. Studios discovered a formula they've chased ever since: style plus sorrow equals legend. The secret is how she shaded exuberance with melancholy. You could feel the mask and the person behind it, both alive. Directors praised her rhythm, the way she hit beats like a drummer with perfect time, a wild detail that keeps the myth aloft. Posters reportedly boosted military morale, and the name Gilda became shorthand for charge-up allure. Financially, the film anchored reissues and retrospectives for decades, every cycle renewing the cash and the conversation. Culturally, Hayworth set the gold standard for glamour that hurts a little beauty as biography. The image might sparkle, but the eyes told a story that didn't fit in the frame. That duality is why the character endures. We remember the glove, yes, but we return for the ache. Marilyn Monroe, the supernova standard. Marilyn Monroe is the meeting point of radiance and rawness. Early calendar images resurfacing in magazines created a global moment. But her genius was narrative control. She turned noise into momentum and momentum into craft. Gentlemen prefer blondes. The 7-Year Itch, and Some Like It Hot, showcased timing that critics eventually admitted was textbook. Directors talk about the camera loving her, yet the deeper truth is how she loved the audience back, inviting them to see the person beneath the shine. Financials were spectacular. Her name lifted slates and paid for risks, a wild detail fans cite. She studied like a prize fighter, drilling beats until they looked effortless. The gap between perception and effort defined her struggle and her triumph. She battled to be taken seriously, and when the scripts had teeth, she bit down and didn't let go. Monroe made pathos luxurious emotion wrapped in neon. The culture keeps chasing that synthesis, which is why references and homages never dry up. She didn't just become famous, she became a language. Every generation borrows a word. Which performance genuinely expanded what mainstream films could show, and which one is coasting on nostalgia? Drop a name in your argument. Here's the spark: did these roles liberate the industry, or just rebrand old limits with better lighting? Tell me where the line truly moved.